Back to Fish Tank Live, presented by Van Horn Law Group and Casabella Design Group. Seth Levit live from the Casabella Design Group studios, and I am joined by the toughest live podcaster Dan Marino ever played with. He is OJ McDuffie. Juice, we're finally having a live show after a W.
Man, it took long. It took way too long, Big Seth. What the hell is going on, man, with your team? That's your team.
Wait a second. Yeah. You sound now. This sounds like a married couple where it's my team when they're not winning.
Correct.
But you're going to claim them this week.
This is my squad. This is my squad.
Well, there he is. OJ McDuffie is definitely going to be a fun one. Of course, we are always joined by the legendary Savak, producer extraordinaire, longtime Miami Dolphins beat writer. Long time, I was told. I can't say old head. I can say long time, right? He's
an OG, Seth.
Yeah,
he's an OG. He's an OG.
He is the host of the All Dolphins Podcast. He is Alain Poupart. If you follow him at Poupart NFL, I would love to hear what your experience has been like. And we're going to talk about some of that. And of course, the heart and soul of the Van Horn Law Group. It's our guy, Chad Van Horn, back from Ireland, man. Went all the way out there just to see Aaron Rodgers get a W.
Man, I'm so happy to be back. Sorry I missed you guys last week, but that time difference is a beast. But happy to be back in the tank.
Yeah, well, we love having you back.
Yeah.
So, look, I just said it, guys. We finally, after 4 weeks of Miami Dolphins football, you can go back further. I mean, they were assigning L's to the Dolphins in joint practices.
Yep.
There were all kinds of questions all offseason. It has been a rough start to this Miami Dolphins season, but thank goodness the lowly New York Jets came rolling in, and the Miami Dolphins are now 1-3. So, let's talk about what went right on Monday Night Football, and then even though you got a W, just because the big fat guy hit a three-pointer doesn't mean I want him to continue to shoot threes. What things are we still concerned about? Alan, let's start with you, my man. Oh, we lost you, Alan. We lost your audio, buddy. Oh, wait. No, I lost everybody's audio, so maybe it's just me.
No, you can hear me. If you want me to fill in for Alan, I can, but it won't be that good. So hopefully Alan gets his audio working.
Well, as he's working on that, Juice, you tell me, because I know you had a great seat.
Oh, I've always got a great seat, Big Seth. You know what I mean? Actually, my seat this time was compromised when I got there. Doing the pregame show for the team on iHeartRadio, they always hold a couple seats for me. Because I know that, guys will get there an hour before kickoff, and I got to worry about, whether I'm going to get a seat to actually start taking some notes for tonight and anything else I have to do. And Jeff Cross was sitting in my seat, and
I can't wait to hear about it.
And for me, I'm like, damn, do I approach this big fella and tell him to get out of my seat, or do I just, let him just sit there and chill, where I can't even sit there and watch the game and take notes and stuff like that? So me being the man that I am, Big Seth, I sent somebody else over there to do it.
Who did you send? Was it Higgy?
Woody went and did it. Woody went and told Jeff, because honestly, and I love my teammates, man, but they know that I have 2 seats always set aside because I do pregame. I have 2 seats set aside in the alumni suite, and usually there is a reserved or a piece of paper or something there. For some reason, it wasn't there, so they thought that I wasn't coming to the game. Note to everybody, every single home game the Dolphins have, I will be in attendance unless I can't be. Physically, mentally, whatever it might be, I will be at every single home Dolphins game because that's my squad. Whether we're 0-3, 3-1, 0, whatever it is, that's my team. So if any of our former players are listening, stay the hell out of my seat.
Stay out my damn seat. That's right. Good stuff. Alan, do we have a mic yet? Did we get Alan on the mic?
I don't know. Did we?
There he is.
There's Alan.
Okay. I was asking you, do you want the good parts first or the areas of concern?
Dealer's choice. You could tell us what you think. And this will lead me into a question I have for you anyway. I'm curious to see where you're going to start.
Oh, now I got to be Mr. Positivity here.
You do not have to be.
No, you do not. No, Alan, be you, Alan. Be you, brothers. Be you, baby.
I appreciate that because that's all I can be. Here's the thing is, day one, I don't know how crazy we can feel about it because obviously, besides the Tyreek injury, it's the Jets. And I put on social media during the game, my Lord, and the Dolphins look like a different team, but how much of that is they're playing the Jets? And Justin Fields scrambling aside, 13 penalties, fielding a punt at the 2-yard line. You're punting the ball down 10 on 4th and 10 from your 31-yard line with 7 minutes left. Really? So it to me was like that kind of took it away from the Dolphins, the impressiveness and the accomplishment of winning a game, because they beat a really, really bad team. Yeah. And the run defense, I don't need to mention it, is still like this. The good things I saw, to me, first and foremost, and I mentioned this on the All Dolphins podcast, is it was the first time all season I felt that Tua did not have happy feet in the pocket, that his feet were set a little bit more. There was, I hate to use that word because I don't know if it's the right word, but there was no panic or no like happy feet in the pocket. He looked a lot more decisive, and as a result, he was more accurate than he had been pretty much the entire season. So, and obviously the 3 takeaways, good job by punching the ball. I don't know if they were more violent on defense, but they were consciously punching at the ball. Jack Jones, even KJ Britt on the kickoff were brilliant. Allen was injured, did the same thing. So those are steps in the right direction.
Juice, what do you think about that? I know we talked about your seat. That was the good, but and the bad.
Yeah. Well, it was a combination of things, actually. Yeah, you're right about that. You know, I'm with Alan on that, man. You know, they beat a team they're supposed to beat.
Yeah.
Honestly, you know what I mean? And we've seen that. I thought a New England team was a team also they were supposed to beat, and they didn't do so. And we always talk about how Buffalo's team they could have beaten, but obviously Buffalo's the cream of the crop when it not just comes to the division, but when it comes to the NFL, to be honest with you. And so I thought, you know, they did some things this past weekend or Monday night that I was impressed with. You know, Alan talked about a little bit the takeaways. We haven't had much of that at all. You know, and of course, the opportune takeaway down the goal line, that was opportune that we haven't had in a long time. And what's more impressive for me with that is that they took those takeaways and they turned them into 14 points. You know, sometimes we turn them into 0 points or 6 points. You know, we had 3 takeaways, but only got 14. I'll take 14.
Stop and you punt the ball back, right?
I'll take 14 right there. And then, you know, of course, the Tyreek injury was rough. Obviously, that was devastating. But they found some other guys that have to start filling in. I think that's something that happens when a key player, an irreplaceable player, gets injured. They found some other guys that can actually go out there and make some plays for us. So I'm just happy that we went on primetime and found a way to get a win, because primetime isn't good to us. It really isn't, man. We're not a very good primetime team. And when you go out there rocking those pitch blue uniforms, yes, it's pitch blue, not black, everybody. Pitch blue uniforms. You better go out there and represent, because otherwise you'll never see those uniforms again. And I hope you don't. If you take an L, you don't get those uniforms again, man. And so I just thought that no matter what, they went out there and did what they were supposed to do. They got the win against a team they're supposed to beat. They represented on Monday Night Football in front of the whole world. It wasn't pretty, but it wasn't ugly for us. I like the fact that it wasn't ugly for us, because sometimes you get an ugly win. The ugly part was what the Jets did, but hell, we didn't do anything like, you know, we didn't turn the ball over. You know, we didn't make a lot of stupid penalties. We had some, of course, we have some, but at the same time, though, it wasn't an ugly win for us. Whereas, you know, the team that, you know, didn't mess it up at the most ended up winning that football game. They took advantage of some situations, some turnovers and things like that, and won a football game. And, you know, like I talk about all the time, any given Sunday or Monday, a team can win. And hell, the Jets could, you know, shit. Yeah, we can say shit, Alan, by the way. You know.
Alan's a YouTube vet these days.
Yeah, I know. I'm just some people say you know don't curse. Fuck that. You know what I mean? Anyhow.
Man, alrighty then. Okay.
Anyhow, you know,
welcome to the fish tank, Alain Poupart.
Yeah. So anyhow, we went out there and, you know, we did what we were supposed to do against the team we were supposed to. And our backs were honestly in the month of September, our backs were against the wall and we got the win.
Yeah. And that's how I look at it. I think that the Dolphins were at the point where it didn't matter if it was a pretty win or an ugly win. Didn't matter if it was against a good team or a bad high school team. They just needed to kick somebody's ass, or at least feel like they did. And I actually, I think that the game wasn't as close as the score was. I thought the Dolphins were the more dominant team throughout the night. That said, there were concerns, right? There were still some concerns that, and Alan brought it up about the run game, the defense against the run. I mean, something has to be done there. The number was inflated because of Justin Fields, but if you sound like Tom Olivadotti, if you took Justin Fields away, it was still ugly. Like that opening drive, I mean, 76 yards of rushing right down their throat. You get this whole great speech that's going to, it'll be one for the ages with Anthony Weaver and an unbelievable presser. I would have loved to have been in the room. Alan, were you there when Anthony? Yeah, I mean, that I felt it over, a YouTube video. I can only imagine what it felt like to be in that space. And I do think they were more violent. They seemed to fly to the ball more. I think that they tried to deliver the things he asked for, but they're just not, they're not getting home on the pass rush. They are not. I don't know what's happening with that front four. Forget the front seven, because I think the linebackers are playing pretty well. I mean, golly, what did Brooks had 12 tackles by halftime? I haven't seen a number like
18
that.
18 total, man. That's
Zach
crazy.
Thomas
18
played.
total, man.
Yeah. So he was balling, but that is a major concern for me, especially when you start playing teams that are a little bit more capable than what the New York Jets have. But I really don't think any of it mattered in the sense that they needed to get a W. They needed to get a W. But on the flip side of that, they did suffer an incredible loss in Tyreek Hill. And I know we're going to get into that. But the one thing none of us have mentioned thus far, and I think is one of the big surprises so far this season, because we had literally seen nothing from him. Hell, you haven't seen anything from him since 2023. But Darren Waller not only plays for the first time as a Miami Dolphin, but he's like the dominant force on the field with I don't know how many reps he had. What have you seen
16
that?
Snaps, 16.
18? 16 snaps, 4 targets, 3 catches, 2 touchdowns. And they were like, the one where he climbs, remind me of Mike Gesicki against Baltimore in that great comeback game where he climbs the ladder and he just goes up there and he's just the bigger, more athletic guy.
That one was better. This one was better.
They were both really good, but either way.
It work. Sorry, OJ. I know Gesicki's a Penn State dude, but
nah, man. Hey, man. We're not talking Penn State tonight, Alan. We're not talking Penn State right now.
It's going to come in. But, I mean, that was a phenomenal play. And while he was, the second one, he was, I think Tua had his choice of tight ends. It was very funny because I think Julian Hill thought for a second that it was coming to him. And then he realized very quickly that he was not the primary on that deal. But, yes, he was wide open on that play. But he also that free release on Darren Waller is like, it's almost unfair. And so it was exciting to see that I let a golly slip from my mouth. My bad, Bohica. I sure did. So, I mean, that was really cool to see. I think it surprised a lot of us. Beat all the allegations, Joe Abbey said. Yeah, I mean, it was very impressive. It was a reminder of why he was such a preeminent talent in this league a few years ago. Will he hold up? I don't know. Isn't that the big question?
That is a big question, and nothing he did was surprising because that dude could play, like you mentioned, like in, was it 2020 and 2021 or 19 and 20? Dude was like 90 catches, 100 catches, 2-time Pro Bowler. I mean, that dude was well. And if you remember when he played the Dolphins in 2020, the face mask pass game, Eric Rowe actually had great coverage the entire game, and Waller just kept going up over him and catching the ball despite really good coverage, kind of like what Garrett Wilson did against Rasul Douglas on the last touchdown. Just want to address your point real quickly, though. From a standpoint of keeping the season alive or mathematical hopes, yeah, any win against the Jets was going to be good. If you're looking big picture, I think it could have been better if we're going to be honest about it.
Yeah.
Could have been better. You're saying the performance could have been better.
Yes.
Gotcha. What would have? Well, I mean,
let's talk about that a little bit because I mean, honestly, look, the NFL is the NFL, Alan. As you know, man, it's like you're not going to go out there and dominate any team. Very few teams get dominated. So you go out there and find a team that's, especially the Jets, that hate us like we hate them. Yeah, it could have been better. But at the same time, though, find a way to win no matter what is like, it's a hard deal every single Sunday, Monday, right? I mean.
Yeah, except what I would say to that, though, is the Jets now look like a team that really was looking to get their asses kicked.
I would love to know a team that feels that way. I really would.
I'm sorry to interrupt real quick, but the chat is killing me right now. So somebody else defended Gesicki. They said he's better at the gritty. As a rapper. I thought that was pretty good.
Juice, I got something for you real quick, because there was a quote from a Jets player that I got to run by you that I've never heard a player say before. And I think you know who this is. Breece Hall came out and he said, when they would shoot themselves in the foot, we would shoot ourselves in the head.
Damn.
Did you hear that quote?
You saw that?
I didn't, man. I did not, man.
Yeah.
I mean, that's tough for a player to say. So I'm leaning towards Alan here, where the Jets kind of did shoot themselves in the head a couple times. But would you ever say that as a player, first off? And what would your coach at the time say to you if you actually said that to the media?
No, I would never, and I get what he's saying right there, because anytime you turn the rock over, anytime you put the ball on the ground, that's a big problem, man. It really is. And, for you to turn the ball, if we score a touchdown, you put the ball on the ground on a return, and we get it. That's always a big, big problem, man. So I get what he's saying. And that's one thing that the Jets can fix. You can fix turnovers. You can't fix some of the stupidity that might have happened out there. Now, think about this too, though. Hell, they got Allen, a 4th and 5, and we got Justin Fields dead to rights, and he moves out of pocket and then scores a 40-something yard touchdown on us.
Mm-hmm.
Whenever you talk about the mistakes they made, then they also make up for it with shit like that. You know what I mean? That's something that you can't even script or even game plan against. So, I mean, even though they turn the rock over and we score some points, hell, they should never have scored on that situation right there in an NFL football game, because that looked like high school stuff to me. Like, when I played high school, I can go right and then go back left and score a touchdown like most of these guys that played at this level could do, but he got away with that. But Breece Hall's right, man. They made some huge mistakes, but the best thing about it was the Dolphins capitalized on those as well. But yeah, you're right, Chad.
So going back to Waller, and I guess maybe I'll ask Alan this first. I thought it was curious that after everything we've heard, that he comes out on a Levitard show or somewhere and says, "Yeah, a couple days in camp, I tore my quad, at the hip, and that's what it was." And we're hearing different things, and he backed off of that a little bit today. But my larger question is,
why do you think that happened? Why do you think that happened, Seth? Bad Darren.
I mean, I imagine it was a conversation that was had, but and he is still appearing on the injury report with a hip injury. So that's remaining consistent. He said he felt pretty good coming out of it, but how, especially now with Tyreek being hurt, we're going to talk about that in a second, but especially with Tyreek being hurt, how careful do the Dolphins need to be, or how disciplined, maybe is a better word, do they need to be to stick to whatever their plan was in dealing with a 30-something-year-old player who hasn't played in over a year, who didn't participate in training camp? It's very enticing to see what he did in 16 snaps. And if we only throw the ball again, what would that look like if he played 30 snaps? How disciplined do they need to remain, even though they just lost their biggest playmaker on offense?
Remember, this is a guy who had injury after injury, and that's why his career started going south after he left in the last couple of years with the Raiders, and then his one season with the Giants. It was one thing after another, and he kind of mentioned that as well in that ill-fated interview, I shall call it. And look, he started training camp on PUP. Okay. And then the word was he needs to work himself into football shape.
Right.
Did you peep the guy at any point during training camp? I mean, his muscles had muscles. Like, seriously, how long do you need to get into football shape? So it never passed a smell test. We never got an answer. Then the first regular season injury report comes out, hip, And then Mike tells us this happened before practice. He was not scheduled to participate in because he had a regimen. So let's just say, again, the whole thing did never pass a smell test. And lo and behold, he makes that comment on the Le Batard podcast. And it's like, oh, okay. Yeah. But no, first of all, you're not going to have him in there to block. Number one, because that's not his forte. He was a wide receiver. Again, played at Penn State, as I'm sure OJ you're well aware. But you need to limit his snaps, get the most efficiency out of him, because very sadly the history says he's not going to be terribly durable, and the injuries are always going to be a concern.
Yeah, Juice, what do you think about that? I mean, talking about football shape, right? You're a guy who had to get into football shape, although you kind of getting into shape was never your issue. OJ had so at the house where we always would play basketball at, he had his fitness room that overlooked the pool, that overlooked the basketball court. And there was this elliptical machine. And Juice, how many you would run on that elliptical machine for an hour before you come out and play ball? Like it was non-stop with this guy.
Yeah, bro. Conditioning was always one of my things, man. And Alan knows speed was never one of them, so I better be able to run all day. You know what I mean? And that was part of me being able to run all day. It's so crazy, Seth. It was always one of those things, man, where, and now that I'm retired, I can say that I go out, to the clubs until 5 a.m, then I'll be up running at 7:30 in the morning. Just because I could always just run, man. And conditioning was always a thing. And it drives me crazy a lot of times with guys now that come out of the game. I never come out of the game until we went to like a jumbo package, a one receiver package where it was like Urban Fryer only. But otherwise, if we had 75 snaps, I was in 70 of them, And so that was all part of conditioning. Now, when it comes to right now with Darren Waller, I think it makes us smarter as a team to be about his packages. Whatever packages we have for him, especially down in that red zone they call it now. When I played, it was called the green zone because that was money time with Don Shula. Don Shula called it green zone because money time, and that's part of what football was about. I think it's okay for him not to have so many snaps. He's an older gentleman on the football team.
An older gentleman.
Older gentleman on the football team.
That's almost worse than being called an OG in this chat right now.
It's a little less. You got to look at that scale of where you fall in line with what they call you. According to your age. And I'm an OG right now, and I'm gonna be an old man. I think when I turn 56 in December, I think I go to an old man. But that's a different story right there. But I think when you've got guys like that, you have to manage where you play them and how often you play them, especially when you're working them back out of retirement and things like that. But, man, when is the last time, other than Gesicki, like Alan talked about, have we had a red zone threat like that? Whereas you don't have to be open in the red zone to get an opportunity in the red zone. And that's what we need for Darren Waller. He was pissed off with the Giants. They were running like a fullback. He was lead blocking. He was doing things like that. He doesn't have to do that here. We got Julian Hill can go and knock somebody in the mouth. We have a fullback in Alec Ingold that can go in there and hopefully hit somebody in the mouth. So he can be a specialty player for us. But it doesn't matter. It's like for him, we don't need him most of the time until we get down there in those situations where he's a specialty player. And boy, did he show up in those situations. That's, there's some specialty players. Yeah, I mean, you don't need your kicker, back on in minus 20. You only need him when you get inside the 50 or whatever it is, or extra points or whatever it might be. So, hell, I'll take Darren Waller at $5 million a year. I'll take him as a specialty guy for sure.
Wait, you just used the kicker as an example of how to be selected? Okay, fair enough.
I don't know where it came from, Big Seth. You know me. My mind is still like, CT's a motherfucker, man. But anyhow, still though, bro. Sometimes you gotta
fair enough.
You equate guys. Guys are specialty players, man.
Fair enough. Oh, BLT in the house.
Why are we ragging on his rapping? I mean, Jesus, that's not very nice.
I know they're cut. Is it just the fact? Is the rapping bad, or is it just the fact that he's rapping?
I didn't think it was that bad. That one video that I saw of his, like filmed on the beach. I thought it was fine. I mean, I'm not a rap aficionado.
It's horrible.
Alain Poupart telling you whether or not he can rap. I don't know.
It is horrible, and I am a fan of rap. Alan, I don't know your history of rap, but it is god awful, and it's the reason that he is back to football so quickly.
Right.
Sorry,
Okay, I sit corrected. I mean, like I'm not a rap aficionado. That's
probably the kiss of death is when Alan and I are like, yeah, it wasn't that bad. That's probably when you know it's straight trash.
Hey, Big Seth.
Oh golly, it's not that bad.
Oh golly, it's not.
Big Seth, all the time, man. Everybody wants to do a different profession than they're playing. Rappers think they can be athletes. Athletes think they can be rappers. You know what I mean? It's like it's honestly, stay in your lane most of the time, man. And most of the time, these guys do
turned rapper. Who's an
What's
athlete turned rapper that is respected in the game?
Nobody.
Master P.
I'll give you one crossover. I'll give you one good crossover. But
hold on. Go ahead, Alan. Go ahead.
No, this is kind of like art to art. It's not sports to art. But Jenny Lewis was an actress. Pleasantville was the movie, and then she was a lead singer of a band called Rilo Kiley, which completely kicks ass. Okay. That's a great crossover.
Okay. I like that. I like that.
I have no comment. I just don't know. I'm uninformed.
Well, I get that. But most of these guys have money. They have a studio, and they think they got some stuff going on, man. And honestly,
what about T. Stead? That was it, right? T. Stead was supposed.
It wasn't bad. Again,
it wasn't bad. There you go. Never mind. I know exactly.
All I pay attention to is the Billboard Top 100. I haven't seen any of them dudes on it, Big Seth. You know what I mean? And Master P, I never saw him in the league. Who did he play for in the NFL?
Yeah, just because he had a court. Master P was an athlete in the same way Darren Waller is a rapper, I think, Chad. He just owned it. He had a court in his house.
No, Master P made the NBA. I have his rookie card. So
Wait a second.
He played for New Orleans.
He did?
Look it up.
Okay.
Made it.
I'm not challenging the attorney because I don't.
Percy Miller, if you don't know. I have his rookie card. Look it up.
What's a Master P rookie card? Is it graded? Did you send it? Does it have a PMS grade on it?
I didn't send it yet, but maybe I will.
Right. Absolutely. All right, we're going to get back on the rails. Since Joe Robbie said that Tyreek had a better freestyle, and I think Joe just brought it up because he beat him in a freestyle contest. But let's talk about Tyreek. And we're joking here, but that was it's the type of injury nobody wants to see happen to anybody. I mean, there's players who I cannot stand in the National Football League or who played in the National Football League. And I don't root for injury on anyone, but certainly something like that was horrific. And it was just, Tyreek's one of those guys you just never expect to get hurt, right? Cheater don't get hurt, I think he told us. And so when he went down and to go down like that and for it to be that awful, and you knew instantly that was it. You were not going to see Tyreek certainly the rest of the season. What happens beyond that is a whole other conversation. Can we talk about the impact that's going to have on this team? Because I have some thoughts that maybe are a little counter to some others. I don't know. And then kind of where do they fill the void? Let's just say that. Let's start with that. Where are the Dolphins going to turn to fill the void that Tyreek leaves? Nobody's going to match his speed. Nobody's going to match the fear in the hearts of defensive backs when they see that guy aside from him. I understand that part. But he had a lot of targets. There were a lot of footballs thrown Tyreek's way. They got to go somewhere else. What's going to happen there?
Alan.
Oh, me. Oh, sorry. Yeah, no, you're right. You don't fill the void because, and I've said this before, it's not just the speed. It's the combination of speed and quickness, which is completely ridiculous. Something I've never seen before. Like from the first training camp practice, when he showed up, it was like, holy shit, what is that I'm watching? Never seen that before, that combination. No, you don't replace him. What they're going to miss more than anything else is a guy who easily can get open on, forget deep. You're talking about 3rd and 6. The play where he got hurt, the 3rd and 8, where he quickly beat the guy to the outside. It's a great throw by Tua, but he still got himself open. Obviously, as you mentioned, just the fact defenses now are going to compress a little bit more in that wide open space that the Dolphins had in the running game at times when it's working. Chances are it's not going to be like that. But the distribution of the plays and the touches, it's going to be, I think, package. I don't expect, like, for example, Jalen Waddle's touches to increase exponentially. He's going to get more targets, but I think it's going to be few more touches for Jalen Waddle, few more for Waller, few more for Malik Washington, few more for NWI, few more for HN, few more for Ollie Gordon.
So a mixture of run and pass. You're saying run and pass, or just in the passing game? You think that?
No, both. And then I think ideally Mike would like to have more balance offensively and run. He'd like to have, and even said it on the record, like to have more rushing attempts than passing attempts if the game situation dictates it, but it doesn't always.
Interesting. Well, Juice, what do you think? I know we were talking a little about it, and there's no subject you like talking about more than wide receivers. So what are your thoughts there?
Yeah, I'm honestly, man, let's go back to, how tough that injury is for anybody on a football field. Nonetheless, your star wide receiver, but it's also impactful on the team that you're playing against, especially when it happens on their sideline and they see what's going on there, man. You never want to see that, Big Seth, like you talked about, with anybody on the football field, man. It's already a tough enough sport, and players deal with enough injuries, but to see something like that was horrific. And for Tyreek, the most dynamic player on our football team in the last decade, I would say, that's tough. It's tough on us. It's tough on him, but his attitude and what he did to honestly motivate this team to go out there and continue playing. I've never seen it before. Everybody, how many of you guys have seen him in the ambulance? You know what I mean? How many people heard about what was going on the sideline, how he was laughing and joking?
I've never seen anyone react to an injury like that.
I've never seen that before, man. And the craziest part about it was, man, like when we're doing the pregame show, me and Travis and I, that's how you would say it, Big Seth, and now you guys that are, that
you two
really
together.
Yeah. Travis and I, we were, we saw Tyreek in the huddle or in the group of the whole team, and how pumped up he was, and how excited he was, and how mic'd up he was. I know he was mic'd up for that game, but at the same time, though, he had everybody captivated, and he was playing like that. His game started off playing like that. He had the energy that you would expect from a guy like Tyreek Hill, who's that dynamic, who's that big of an influence on the football team, to be out there doing. And sure as hell, he showed it from the beginning of that game. Every opportunity he got, he was pumped, he was involved, he was great about it, man. And then you lose a guy like that, in that situation, and that's tough. And so on to the next part of that question is that everybody has to step up to replace him. We can't replace Tyreek Hill. We can't. Everybody's got to find a way to replace it. And it starts with Mike McDaniel drawing it up for everybody to be involved, and two, not having to throw the ball to 10 all the time. And it's a bad thing that we lose Tyreek, but it's a good thing that he's got to read the field and everybody else can be involved when out there on the football field. And that I played when, hell, I knew the ball wasn't coming my way. Big Seth, Alain, Savak, Chad. I knew the ball wasn't coming my way because there are other dogs on my team. The Keith Jacksons, the Keith Byers, the Urban Fryers, the Mark Ingrams. But hell, if I got an opportunity, throw the ball, make sure I'm where I'm supposed to be when I'm supposed to be there. Now that you don't have an alpha dog, an alpha male, like, your number one go-to guy, everybody needs to be on alert, because Tua now can do what he does best, scan the field, go 1, 2, 3, hopefully, possibly in his progressions, and make the right play instead of just zeroing in on 10, 10, 10, 10, 10. And that's going to be, it should be good for our football team. And then we already talked about Darren Waller when we get down in, the red zone, green zone, I like to call it, and the opportunities that he might present. So, yeah, losing Tyreek Hill is a terrible problem. And like Alan said, teams are going to still go back to what they did before, shell, condensing the field because they don't fear anybody else. But the other guys, the Waddles, the Washingtons, all these other guys, they need to go ahead and step up now. Yeah. I always thought Waddle was a 1B anyways. So now it's time for him to be the 1A.
And they're telling us he is, right?
Now you're getting the opportunity take advantage of it, but don't put him in a Tyreek thing where you're always forcing the ball to Waddle. Keep working it around the field because you got a lot of talented players that can make plays for you.
Yeah. It's interesting. And I have to, I guess in this age of pulling receipts, I have to stay consistent for things I was saying going all the way back to the end of last season. And I'm not trying to be disrespectful to somebody who just suffered a significant injury that way. And I wish him a speedy recovery and hope he gets a chance to rekindle his NFL career. But I felt the Dolphins should have moved on from Tyreek Hill. And I know a lot of people think that mindset was crazy. I just felt that by the end of the season, I understand the talent. I understand the fact that the team was essentially built around Tua's ability to play this very specific offense and Tyreek and Waddle's ability to open things up and starting with Tyreek. I get it. I totally get it. But it hadn't yielded the results that everybody wanted. And I just felt that Tyreek had become problematic. I thought he had become problematic away from the building. I felt that when he was at the building, he wasn't always at the building. You know, there's plenty of stories that have been heard about practice habits or you know, maybe not practice habits, but habits of getting to practice, whether it's on time, whether it's being there at all. I just think there were a lot of things that were not conducive to being in the captain's position, to being somebody that, because of who he is, so many young players looked up to and start to think that they can handle themselves the way Cheetah does. I find that could be problematic. And I just felt that he had let his head coach down in a lot of ways. I talked a little bit about this last week. And so I did feel that they would sacrifice the talent in doing that, but that I felt that they needed to do it. I felt he was embarrassing the brand in a lot of ways. And so he came back. That was a decision they made. Some of it might have been financial. Some of it might have been the way Alan's looking at me like I'm crazy. And they felt that you can't get rid of a guy who's that talented. So I understand that. If I say in the building one more time, Chris Perkins will appear and ask a legal question. That is maybe the chat comment of the day. Oh, sorry. I will try to maintain my thought here. So the point that I'm making is that I felt they should have moved on from him and that it was worth the sacrifice. And that now they are in a position, Juice, to your point, where, you know, they probably have relied on the pass too much. There are probably times where they should be running the ball more, especially, I think, with some of the things that we believe Ollie Gordon could be, especially with Devon Achane, who seems to become more important and more dynamic each and every week. And I don't know what it's like in that huddle, but I have to imagine Tyreek is in Tua's ear. I don't know what it's like on the sideline, but I have to imagine Tyreek is in Mike McDaniel's ear. And now they can just play the game in the way the offense dictates. I'm not saying they're going to be better, Alan. And I'm not saying that I reiterate, there's nobody, I'm coming right to you. There's nobody that's going to strike fear in the heart of opposing defenses, opposing defensive coordinators, the way Tyreek Hill did. I understand that, but I'm okay with that.
Can I make a couple of quick points?
It's all yours now. I had to get that out. I had to get that out. Go ahead, eviscerate me.
Two quick things, because I was always against the idea of trading Tyreek. Number one, when this offense with this nucleus was at its best, and by far the guy who was making the plays, who was the difference maker, who was putting it over the top, was Tyreek Hill.
Sure.
And it's not even close. We're talking about 2023 when the Dolphins were 11-4. Tyreek would, chances are, would get.
He was going for 2,000 yards. Yeah.
Hold on. If he doesn't get the high ankle sprain in the Monday night game against Tennessee, he gets 2,000 yards. I don't know that they beat Baltimore or Buffalo at the end of the year or Kansas in the playoff game, but who knows? And then last year there were other issues, and then he started to breaking down. The other problem with I was okay with trading Tyreek if you're completely resetting. That's part one, and part B would be, because if the Dolphins had hopes of going anywhere in 2025, as in playoff, that elusive playoff win, you're not getting there. I don't think you get there without Tyreek. I think they had a shot with Tyreek. And then the last thing I will say is, to me, he became a distressed asset after what happened last year. And this is also me saying, why in the absolute hell did they give him restructure his contract last September when they didn't have to?
Yeah.
Yeah, we say that a lot, Alan. We do. We talk about the contract situations on quite a few players with this football team, and we won't mention any names. Now, my question to you, though, Alan, is
Jalen Ramsey. I'll mention him.
that name. There's another guy. Go ahead, Juice. You had a question.
Yeah. My question is this. Now, obviously, you know, we don't have. There's very few teams that have a Tyreek Hill on their roster. You know what I mean? But I do feel that Jalen Waddle, for a lot of reasons, what he did in college, Jalen Waddle probably would have won the Heisman Trophy if he didn't break his ankle. You know what I mean? And instead, you know, his teammate ended up winning the Heisman Trophy that year. You know, 2, his draft status with us, you know, shows that, you know, top 10 pick, that he's that type of talent. Alan, do you think that Jalen Waddle, not being a Tyreek Hill, could be a number 1 receiver in this league? Like, most teams only have one number 1. I thought like I said earlier, we have a 1A and 1B. Can Jalen Waddle be the number 1 receiver in this league and be able to go out there and make plays? Granted, he stays healthy.
Bingo. That's my concern with Jalen Waddle. The talent is there, and he can make plays, and he will get production. He's a small dude, and he's also had a lot of minor injuries throughout his career. I am concerned whether he's going to hold up as being the number 1 guy, especially if you feed him a lot. I think he's going to get probably muscled at the line of scrimmage quite a bit. That's my concern with him.
Yeah, I hate that. I hate that people get muscled on the line of scrimmage, especially when they're that damn quick and that damn fast. Because I got muscled because I wasn't fast, but I was quick. So these dudes, man, all you do honestly is work on your releases. If you can get off the ball, which is some of the hardest things to do in the NFL, because most corners, what they want to do is just disrupt you. All they care about is disrupting you, throwing off timing, especially when you're playing against the Miami Dolphins, when timing is everything. So why not get up and press? I'm shocked that guys with speed like that and quickness like that can't beat whatever threat they have in front of them in terms of releases. And if they get muscled, that's a problem, because you want muscle. You want to dare people to come up in your face and challenge you, because if they miss, it's a big miss, and that's a problem. Yeah.
But so where are they losing, Juice? Is it their hands? Is it their where are they losing if they're getting hung up there at the line?
They shouldn't be getting hung up. I don't know where.
I understand, but I'm saying why is that happening?
I have no idea, Big Seth. You know what I mean? A lot of times DBs have nothing to fear, because there's usually help over the top. And that's what we've been seeing.
So they can get
too
more
high
aggressive.
shell, some type of thing. So if they miss, if you're playing 2-man, if they're playing 2-man, they can miss all they want, because they're going to play trail technique anyways. You know, and they've got help over the top with a safety. So what they want to do for us against our guys is disrupt them as much as possible and not worry about missing. If you see a single high safety and they've got one-on-one, you're not going to see as much press, or you're not going to see as much of aggression. You're not going to see as many quick jams or things like that, because if they miss, they're in trouble. These guys are not worried about it, because they're not worried about – they know they have help somewhere. And all the time, most of the time, out there on the football field, DBs have some type of help, whether it's a center high help when they are in front of you inside, or too high help, whatever. There's going to be some help somewhere that they're not too worried about. But when they've got some pressing situations where there's no help, they're not going to be as aggressive. But most of the time against our team, they say, you know what, press these guys, give them some help over the top, and then the corners don't have to worry about it as much.
So I just one more point that I want to make, and then I'm going to go off script a little bit just so we can stay on time here. And Alan, I don't disagree with you. 2023 was magical for 3/4 of the season, and Tyreek was doing things that really we had never seen, right? Not just down here. I mean, he was potentially going to do something that had never been done in this league, and it was so much fun to watch. But then not only did he get injured, but the league kind of caught up to whatever the Dolphins were doing offensively. How many times did we hear too high and get sick of hearing too high? And for a lot of different reasons, the Dolphins were never able to crack that code. And I don't think they've ever gotten back to.
You don't think that was happening, though, at times in 2022 and 2023? Wes Welker in November 2022, in a weekly media session, said he'd never seen two high safeties played as much as he's seen played against the Dolphins.
I understand that, but they couldn't find a solution. What I'm saying is,
but it wasn't. I'm sorry, Seth, but it wasn't purely schematic. The defense had figured out the Dolphins. There were other issues at play, including the fact that Tyreek had health issues beyond the wrist last year, number one. Number two, there were trust issues with the offensive line. Number three, there was a reluctance from Tua to chuck it deep if the guy wasn't totally open. So there were a lot of factors. It wasn't just defenses that figured it out. We can't run the ball, so they were all backing up.
I don't disagree with anything you just said, but the point that I'm making is that the magic of 2023 disappeared. Okay. And it didn't mean that they couldn't play anymore and that they didn't have moments where they were dynamic offensively, but the magic of 2023, the idea that they could line up and have a one-play drive at any time kind of disappeared. And so holding on to Tyreek because of that, we may never have seen it again anyway, even if he didn't get injured. And that's all I was saying, is that I was willing to make that not that anybody was asking me, but I was willing to make that sacrifice because of all of the other things.
Well, what would you have done for him though in a trade this offseason?
What would I have gotten?
Would it have been worth it?
For me, him not being here anymore would have been worth it. Yeah, that's how I felt. I felt that way about him and Ramsey.
Yeah.
And I'm being straight up. And now I am not happy that man was hurt. I am not happy about that. If he was going to be here, then he's got to be an important part of the team, right? And everything we saw from him, Juice, we were talking about this in the text thread with Travis today. All you heard is about how he was doing everything the right way. You saw that. I almost felt, and this is just total conjecture, just having been around the league as long as I have been, that him not being named a captain and understanding why he wasn't, he kind of, and he said to you guys, I don't need to have a C on my chest to lead. And I think he made a real concerted effort to be a legitimate leader as a result. Like maybe that was a wake-up call or whatever it was. And I don't know what was happening when we couldn't see what was happening. But I just felt all the energy that we saw in his interviews, on the field, all of that stuff. I just still felt that with everything else that was going on with this team, Mike McDaniel has some strengths, and I think Mike McDaniel has some weaknesses. And one of those is the way that he was leading that locker room, I think, and letting the wrong guys have really the floor. And I just felt that he was going to be more destructive than constructive. That was just what I felt. We shall see what happens.
Yep.
We should, a month from now, you might be texting me going, hey, Seth, remember when you thought this was a good idea? I tried to tell y'all. So you might come back on the show and that could be, I tried to tell y'all. I don't know. We're going to get to I tried to tell y'all in a minute. And then of course, we're going to wrap up with the legal zone with Chad Van Horn. So if you have your legal questions, get them ready in the chat. I'm going off script here, Juice. I want to ask Alan, and you and I were talking about this beforehand. I can go all the way back to when I was an intern and you sat 2 seats away from me in the press box, right? You and Andy Cohen, and pounding out Dolphin Digest articles and all those things. And then working for the team website, now shifting to a digital space and all the different ways you've had to kind of adjust and adapt through the times. It's been really cool for me because I geek out over this stuff. Alain Poupart on Twitter is a different dude than the Alain Poupart that I know. And we had Omar on the show, Omar Kelly, and I said, I tweeted that we had the most polarizing member of the Miami Dolphins beat. And he's so damn polarizing that people were insulted that I called him polarizing. He's not polarizing. I'm like, well, thank you very much for proving my point. Is it fair to say, could I dare say, that you might have the most contentious relationship with Dolphins Twitter out of anybody on the beat?
No, I don't know. I don't know because everybody loves me. So I
well, you don't see it that way. We'll see what the chat tells us here in a second. You seem to there's a side of you I had never seen. Nobody did this. Barry Jackson, I had no idea had the personality that he has. And for years that I've known Barry until somebody put Twitter on his phone. But there's a side of you I haven't seen, and I see it on Twitter, and I'm like, wow.
Well, see, here's the thing is I always had it, except when I was working with Dolphin Digest, there was some sort of association with the team. So I had to be polite. When I'm writing for Dolphins.com, I'm like kind of half representing the team. So I definitely got to be polite. Now with Miami Dolphins on SI, I'm not affiliated with the team anymore. So if somebody pisses me off, I'm not going to take it. And I'll bite back.
Okay.
And you've only known Yeah, I've always been very polite and cordial with you, but I can be a little biting if I need to be.
We've had polite debates. So meanwhile, as I said this on the chat, so Joe Robbie says Alan blocked me a couple years ago and I deserved it, which was great. We got to get Joe Robbie back. Unblock Joe Robbie. Let's get him back in.
Right, exactly.
Sam says Alan called me annoying on Twitter about 3 years ago. Didn't impact me at all.
Oh, I thought I had that effect.
But that's it. If you piss me off on Twitter, I'm going to bite back. That's really the bottom line.
Well, and here's the thing also, and a lot of it stem from my.
Look at this. That's funny. Alan unleashes the best.
Stirring the pot. Is I wasn't complimentary enough a lot of times with Tua, or I would put certain stats like the 1-loss record drives me completely nuts. Like, for example, Tua's first start. You remember against the Rams?
Yeah.
Let's be honest. He played like shit. They had like the Van Ginkel fumble return for a touchdown. Yep. They had Jakeem Grant with a punt return for a touchdown. They had like 100 yards of offense. He's like, oh, he's 0-0. He won his first start. I'm like, give me a break. Like Jackson Dart. This is off top. Jackson Dart on Sunday. You saw that any parts of that game? They were in Justin Herbert's grill the entire. You got Matumbo. That's fine. He's in Justin Herbert's grill the entire afternoon. He threw 2 picks. Jackson Dart passed for like 95 yards and he had a rushing touchdown. Congratulations. You didn't lose the game, but that's not why you won. And the whole story is like Jackson Dart first. I mean, so
yeah,
that's how it started. A lot of the Tua fans would be on my ass, be like, you're a hater and all that. Okay. That's how you perceive it. No, I'm not a hater, but sorry if I don't think he's quite the Hall of Famer that you think he is, you know?
There it is. There's that guy. Alan, I think that's the quote is Alan Unleashed is the best version of Alan. So there you go. All right. I just wanted to ask you about that. And then right before we jump in, I tried to tell y'all, Juice, you said, and we cannot ignore this because you got the call from a Hall of Famer and nobody wants to be on Larry Little's bad side. I think Larry has an announcement coming up and you wanted to share the info.
Yeah, absolutely. Larry has a book release and a book signing coming up, from the outhouse to the penthouse, which is an amazing story. It's Larry's journey to the Pro Football Hall of Fame. He's going to talk about a lot of that in his book, but he's got a signing at Books and Books next Tuesday at 5:30 in Coral Gables, and I will definitely be there to make sure I support my man for sure as well. And when everybody buys a book, you also get a keychain that has a replica of the 72 championship ring on it. I told Larry, I said, I need you to send me one of those, man. He said, no, you got to come to the book signing. So I said, well, hell, I'll be at the book signing then to get one then, man. So I think that, Larry Little, an awesome ambassador, an awesome story. We've had him on the tank a bunch of times. The fact that he's writing this book because he's talking about they literally had an outhouse, no running water, no nothing.
Amazing.
And the next thing you know, this guy played in the NFL and he's in the Hall of Fame and he's writing a book. And I can't wait to hear some of the stories because Seth, we've had some of the stories ourselves.
We've had.
But I can imagine some of the other stories that we did not get from Larry Little that are going to be in this book. So Books and Books, 5:30 Tuesday in Coral Gables. I will be there. Everybody, if you can make it, come hang out with me and my man Larry Little.
Since my age was mocked, and by the way, these are mine. Since my age was mocked, I'm old enough to actually have seen the dude play. And you want to look up at the definition of pulling guard, you'll see Larry Little's picture. That dude did it.
That is awesome. Sam Marcoux said, Juice, that Larry Little can sit in your seat. Will you co-sign on that?
I already told you the story about Larry Little. Larry Little can sit his whole family can take whatever they need. I'll sit in the hallway if Larry Little's there. You know what I mean? I told the story, Seth, before we get into it. I tried to tell y'all. I told the story about that Green Bay game when it was like, Al, you remember it was like 25 degrees outside. It felt like at home, and we always have the windows open for the suite. And everybody's complaining, close the windows. I was like, no, we don't do that. I looked at Larry Little, and Larry Little said, close the windows, little fella. Those windows close immediately.
Shut them damn windows.
It closed immediately. That's how Larry Little his impact is, down in South Florida, and definitely a great man. I love that man.
He's the best. Hey, listen, we booked Larry Little for the first time in the fish tank, and not only did he show up, but he showed up with Larry Zonka and Mercury Morris.
Yeah, right.
May he rest in peace. So I'm grateful. We never would have had that opportunity if he didn't do that. All right, we're going to roll into I Tried to Tell Y'all, and then, of course, the Van Horn Law Legal Zone. So if you have your legal questions, get them fired up. Sam, you always have some good ones. Somebody text Perk, let him know it's his favorite segment. Juice, kick us off with I Tried to Tell Y'all.
All right, Big Seth. Now, this is a little different than usual for me, you know what I mean? Because, usually I try to tell y'all was something that I was right about. Well, you know what? I'm trying to tell y'all this time that I was wrong about Darren Waller returning to the NFL, especially for my team. You know what I mean? When he retired in 2024, I mean, that was it. That's usually it, The Giants had him, like I talked about earlier, blocking like a fullback, and he wasn't happy about it. He wasn't receiving enough. But, we always say in the locker room, when you retire, you're retired, period. I mean, that's just the way it is. And usually, it can be mentally retired, physically retired. Like me, I was physically retired. I still mentally, I was able to go out there and do it. But it was crazy, man. And his absence in the preseason, of course, in the first few games of the season, I felt pretty good about the fact that, this is not going to be working out pretty good for us, But Arthur Smith, he vouched for this guy. He did. And he brought him in, and sure as hell, man, it's starting to work out. But, after we lost Jonnu Smith in the trade and, after a Pro Bowl season, I thought it was awesome. I thought this is crazy. But lo and behold, come Monday night, this dude proves me wrong, Big Seth. He proves me wrong, man. And, after, what he did, we talked about it, 4 targets, 3 catches, 2 touchdowns, all in the red-green zone. And, Alan, you can use that, Alan, if you want to. It can be a green zone, too, for you now. Everybody talk about the red zone. That's bullshit. It's all about going in and making money. I was wrong about that. And to only pay him like $5 million, his ROI is already amazing for me right now, man. So I'm all right with him already. But there's a lot to be done and still to go. I know it's young, and it's hard for men to do, but I was wrong about Darren Waller.
Wow.
So far.
Very nice. Very nice.
Wow. That's a first. That's a first ever. I tried to tell y'all that I was wrong. Shout out to Juice being the bigger man on that one. We were all wrong. So we all tried to tell everybody we've all been wrong at least for 1 week. So anyway, Alain Poupart, you are in the Fish Tank Live. So you need to join us with I Tried to Tell Y'all. What do you got?
Before I do that, green zone, red zone, I'm colorblind, so it's all the same. the plus 20. How's that?
Plus 20. Plus 20. I like that.
Yeah. I got a.
How about the lower plus? Well, I can't call it the lower plus 20, but I just learned about the lower red zone, green zone.
The 10 in 30 or something.
Yeah, the 10 in.
The 10. Okay, got it.
That's the Wingfield special right there, lower red. Yeah.
2 quick ones. Sorry, I'm breaking the rules. Supposed to be 1. 2 quick ones. Number 1, I tried to tell you all the Indianapolis Colts were not going to be an easy opponent in week 1. If they got any kind of quarterbacking from Daniel Jones, that's a good team out there. And they're 3-1. They lost to the Rams. Easily could have won that game if their wide receiver didn't have a brain fart. I guess he didn't learn from Jonathan Taylor last year. Different story. Dolphins, more Dolphins related. They were some of my media cohorts who tried to paint the Dolphins front 7 as quote unquote potentially one of the best in the NFL during training camp. And I was like, whoa, can we simmer down here a little bit? Because to me, we were looking at, okay, we're counting on a couple of rookies in the middle of the defensive line. Kenneth Grant, you're assuming he's going to be a stud right away. Doesn't happen very often like that unless you're Aaron Donald for interior defensive linemen. You got big names at the edge rusher positions, but you got Bradley Chubb coming off the major knee injury of December 2023. You got Jalen Phillips coming off 2 season-ending injuries. And you got Chop, and you're assuming that he's going to pick up where he left off last year, which if you optimistically that's going to happen, but there's no guarantee. And then the linebackers are good, solid players, but are they Bobby Wagner, Fred Warner, or Roquan Smith? Not quite. And so far, it's panning out that, and I was expecting Zach Sealer to have better production than he's had so far this season. That may be the most disappointing thing I've seen so far. Is he missing Calais Campbell that much? Did Calais make that much of a difference? Don't know, but that dude was a player. So, again, I was hoping the Dolphins front seven was going to be good. I never thought the idea of like maybe one of the best in the NFL to me seemed like hyperbole a little bit. And it's panned out so far that it's really not been good and it needs to step up.
Well, if you tried to tell us that, Alan, I hate that you're right because I was on the other side of that one too. So I was wrong about Waller so far, and I was wrong about the front seven so far. So yeah, I'm
You're just wrong, there. Big Seth. You're just
thank goodness I got my own opportunity because I tried to tell y'all that the Miami Dolphins should have taken Tucker Kraft with the 51st pick of the 2023 NFL draft. Juice, we did the draft show together. I jumped up and down on the table from the moment we started that we needed a tight end, and the guy that I liked was Tucker Kraft. He gave me some Travis Kelce feels. I just thought he was a dude that could be, physical enough in the run game and that he could be dynamic with the ball in his hands. And I just thought he had some shit to him, and I loved everything about that. They end up drafting a corner, which raised an eyebrow. I had seen this movie before. I lived through having Sam and Pat, and we tried to go ahead and get a cornerback, and I'm not going to mention it. Well, hell, I'll mention his name. We drafted Jamar Fletcher to try and have the successor to those guys. That didn't pan out the way we wanted it to, but that panned out better than this one did. Cam Smith, unfortunately, and I'm not going to bag on him, but as we all know, he was released off the NFI list unceremoniously, right? So here's a second-round draft pick that played 21 games since 2023. He had a whopping 18 tackles since 2023, not one PBU, certainly no interceptions, no forced fumbles, really has been a non-factor. And Mike McDaniel, I mean, I've never heard Mike McDaniel talk like that. He was almost dismissive today in the presser. I don't think he was disrespectful, but he was almost dismissive. How would you describe Cam Smith's time here? He said he called it time. And so that in and of itself tells you what happened or didn't happen. And I swear to goodness, this is not revisionist history. I know Tucker Kraft I think he was like 73rd or something. So, a lot of people between 51 and when he was picked did not select Tucker Kraft, but that was the guy I wanted. I was so disappointed we didn't get him. And imagine a draft where in the second round, you came away with Tucker Kraft, who I think is now one of the top young tight ends in the game, and you got Devon Achane in the next round. I mean, that would have been pretty significant in getting those two guys. So, look, I know that Darren Waller has just surprised us all, but we had Jonnu Smith for 1 year, and he broke records, and he was a great player for the Dolphins in the time that they needed him to be. And I think that was the right decision to move on and not pay him $12 or $15 million or whatever it was. Darren Waller, I hope that works out. I certainly doubted it. We didn't have him for 3 weeks. I hope that they continue to have him. But imagine having a guy who's only in his third season now, still on his rookie contract, productive, tough, dynamic with the ball in his hands. I tried to tell y'all we should have drafted Tucker Kraft.
Damn.
Quick Tucker Kraft story. I was at his combine. Pardon me. I was at his combine media interview. And as I recall, he said he had met with the Dolphins, and the dude was a complete trip. And it was like, oh, man, that would be cool if the Dolphins drafted him.
Yeah. So as a reporter, right, you like a guy who's interesting to cover. I will say this, though, talking about tight ends, Darren Waller, I'd only seen him play, and I knew about the rapping, which, Alan and Chad have different standards there. But I have been very impressed with him at the podium. Like, what a bright, thoughtful, introspective individual he is. And he's very, very impressive in that regard. Alan, I know you've got to go, so thank you very much. It was great having you here. I hope we can get here back. And maybe you can try to tell me I was wrong about something else later. But yeah, appreciate you. But we're not signing off here. Alan is. We're not. I do love all the apologies Alan got in the chat. He blocked me too, and I deserved it. He blocked me too.
You know what? He's got some guys back now, I think, Big Seth.
No, I got to keep track of who I blocked. So
yeah.
I'll do an unblocked party.
Hey, Alan, how long is your block list? It's got to be.
I have days when I'll block 20 in a row when I'm in my feelings.
It's got to be significant.
All right. Well, hopefully some of our guys are back on your good side, bro.
Tucker Kraft. Hey, Sam wants to know if Tucker Kraft can rap. Alan says he's pretty good. So, Alain Poupart, thank you very much. Make sure you catch him. The All Dolphins podcast, where he's absolutely killing it. At Poupart NFL, if you want to get blocked on Twitter, you can check him out there. And we'll talk to you soon, brother. Thank you.
Thanks,
it's now
Alex.
time for the Van Horn Law Legal Zone. If you have your legal questions, drop them in the chat. Sam usually has some good ones. Can we get Perk on the line? Can somebody find Perk and see what's going on there? Who's got a question? Savak, you sometimes come to the table with a legal question. Oh, here it is. If your 4-year-old son climbs to the top of a play structure to avoid the principal, and then when she being the principal, climbs to the top to get him, oh, I lost it. What was the rest of that? Where is it, Savak? We lost the rest of the question.
Why is everybody trying to get rid of their kids on this show, man?
Well, it's not everybody. It's Sam every time. It's Sam. If she climbs to the top to get him and he takes the slide to escape, is he no longer in trouble? What is the legal?
In the state of Florida, no longer in trouble.
He's in California.
California, definitely in trouble. Definitely in trouble. Actually, real quick, Seth, I want to give a quick shout out. As you know, I just got back from Ireland. If you get a chance to make a trip to NFL Europe, I know we're going to Spain soon with our Dolphins. Make the trip. On the flight back, somebody recognized me and said, "Hey, aren't you that guy from the show?"
Really?
I thought it was from a different show.
Right. Well, what show did you think it was from? You can flex.
I thought it was from a Netflix show I was on.
Yeah,
right.
And they said, no, the football show, The Fish Tank. Yeah. I said, actually, yes, that is me. So that was pretty cool flying down here from Dublin. So we have worldwide fans, and I love it.
Well, if people don't know, Big Seth, Chad was on Squid Game: The Challenge. So the season 1, and he's trying to go back to do it again. And this dude, like he was incredible on there, made top 10 out of 400 some people on this show. And when he said he was leaving, I'm like, where are you going, bro? He said, yo, I can't really talk too much about it, but I'll be going for the next couple of months. And sure as shit, man, I saw him on TV on Netflix.
And where'd you finish?
The challenge.
Top 10.
Top 10. And Netflix. So if you go back and watch it, you can see our very own Chad Van Horn there. I saw
Sleepy Chad.
Yeah, there he is. Let's see. Okay, I have a business and personal debt, but there's no question there. So Laverne, if you want to get that, sounds like it's right up Chad's alley.
Well, the answer to that is then you're in good company, because most people do at this point. Because unfortunately, there's a lot of people struggling out there, and we definitely can help you out. Come on.
Yeah. Well, this thing, Chad. A lot of people like they do, obviously, because of social media and things like that, hear about celebrities that are filing for bankruptcy and doing things like that. And of course, everything is public knowledge. But a majority of people don't understand that what filing for bankruptcy means. I get how people are worried about credit and all this other things along the way, but your reorganizational skills are second to none. And I think that's the relief that people get mentally it's unbelievable, I think. And people don't realize that, just worrying about your credit score is not the biggest deal that you should worry about when you can have so much more peace of mind to get your shit together.
Yeah, 100%. And, America is focused on debt, credit score, and that's just what we're raised in. I mean, obviously, our government is in, I don't know how many trillions of dollars worth of debt and shut down right now because they can't work out a budget. And unfortunately, the government is a product of its people. And there's many people out there that they can't figure out their budget. They just think going in debt for things is the American way. And unfortunately, it is. So the people that make the conscious choice that, I'm going to get out of debt, I'm going to break this cycle, and I'm going to rebuild. There's many different ways to do it, from negotiation to reorganization to just discharging the debt completely. I mean, the key to it is making that choice that you're going to stop struggling, get rid of the endless nights, the sleepless nights, I should say, and the endless debt. And let's put a strategy to be successful in the future. And as soon as you make that decision, really, it's the weight of the world off your shoulders, and you can really see a bright future.
Yeah, bankruptcy is not a death penalty, basically. It's not a death penalty. Everybody thinks that, and I'm with you, bro, for sure.
Makes a lot of sense for sure. I hope we get a couple more questions here, and I it sounds like Sam has questions about Squid Games now. And I hate to shift gears because that was a very serious answer, but our guy BLT, Bill from Boynton, who I think has a pen from the heavens. His writing is spectacular, and he constantly puts out music as well, some fun stuff there, parody songs. He dropped a little rap just based on this episode. I'm not going to read it. How about the legendary Savak, who fancies himself a rapper as well? We're going to come to that question in a second. Let's see. Savak, can you read BLT's little bar that he dropped on us here? And then Chad will let us know. I wish Alan was here. I don't think Alan's going to find it pretty good, which is a good sign. You find it?
Yeah, I think so. Is it the one that starts with the Great White North?
That's it. Let's go. What do you got?
The Great
BLT's lyrics and Savak performing.
The Great White North took a dip in the fish tank and debated whether we should have traded Reek. Waller balling because his rap career's stalling. Joe Robbie begged to be unblocked. Alan's a geek.
There it is. That's a bar. That's what the kids say at the poetry deal. That's a bar. Chad, how did BLT do with Savak as the mouthpiece?
Much better than Darren Waller.
We'll take it. Nice work. Okay, we'll get back to the legal zone. Sam Marcoux with a real question. They're all real questions.
Yeah, and it's a great one because Sad just talked about this too, Big Sad.
How is AI impacting the law game?
Man, AI is a game changer in law. You know, unfortunately, all the negative highlights are showing the people that use AI and they have made up cases and they're using it to be lazy. But what this is really going to do is it's really going to help access to a lot of people that historically couldn't afford access to the legal system, which is a shame. And AI is going to help that if used correctly. I actually have 4 AI developers in my firm working full time on automating different things in the law firm. And those efficiencies eventually are going to be passed down. You have to invest early in that, but the efficiency will be passed down, which should over time reduce the legal cost and actually provide better quality. So I'm excited about where it's going. You got to be careful with it. You can't be reckless with anything, but especially AI. But if used correctly, it's really going to provide a lot of benefit.
Yeah, Chad, let me follow up on that, Chad, because you made a great point on your Instagram thing about it too. Is like sometimes AI does not give you all the accurate information that you want, or that is they don't give you accurate information sometimes. So follow that up with a guy like Chad Van Horn. You know, when they're saying something, when you get some information in AI, most of it's probably pretty accurate, but some of it's made up. And we've seen that before, Seth, on some other things. But when that happens, make sure you reach out to somebody like Chad or a lawyer to make sure that what you're getting from AI is accurate, because sometimes they make up stuff, and that's unfortunate as well.
Yeah, I would say the best way to use AI, especially when it comes to something as important as legal advice, is asking it for what questions to ask. Hey, here's my situation. I'm going to meet with a criminal, a bankruptcy law expert, whatever it is. What questions should I be asking this person to really tap into that expertise and know if they're an expert? Because there are some people out there, and we're in South Florida. Unfortunately, we're known for people that say they might be experts in things that they're not. And AI will give you the questions to ask to really know if that person's an expert in what they're doing and whether you can believe them. And that's really going to give you a better chance to get the right result of whatever you're looking for. So that's how I utilize it in my personal life. If I'm going to interviews, if I'm going to meetings, I'll use ChatGPT to help me with that and give me a head start. But certainly just don't believe whatever advice it gets, because it's too nuanced for that at this point, at least.
Yeah, Laverne, I would reach out to Chad directly on your question right there. Because he's got an opportunity to help you out right there. But, you know, Chad, I mean, that makes so much sense, man, what you're talking about, because, look, man, we all have different things going on in our lives, and what we need is that sound advice from people that are experts at it. Look, there's some doctors that graduated with C-minuses, Big Seth, you know what I mean?
Well, that might
are they
answer
the
the
best
question.
ones that you want to go see? Yeah, I mean, so we
That might answer the question. Juice, the question that just popped up is there a big difference between a lawyer and a public defender? I think there's your C-.
Right.
So no, there's a couple more questions here that I want to make sure we get to. And I know we're over time, but there's some really good questions in here. So I'm going to come back to actually Laverne. I think should connect with Chad. Which should I tackle first, the business or the personal? How can Laverne get in touch with you, Chad?
Yeah, so I'm easy to get in touch with. If you go to vanhornlawgroup.com, you can actually book an appointment with me there for free. You can also call the office 954-637-0000. Unfortunately, there's a lot of small business owners that their businesses are failing and they personally guaranteed the debt. So you got to figure out what goes first. Is the business worth saving? What happens to my personal assets? So it gets very complicated, but it is a great question, and we're seeing that daily at this point, just because of all the pressures that are happening.
We'll give Chad a call. In fact, I think Joe Robbie just came up with a new tagline for you. It said, "If you're feeling torn, call Van Horn." Since we're dropping bars here,
I like that.
Here's another one.
Better Call Sal. Is that like a Better Call Sal?
There it is.
You know
this is the question. Thank you, Savak. What is the single greatest first step towards getting your debts credit that you see most often with other people? Oh, where to go? Like, what is the most common thing that most people start out with? And he said he left out the word restructure or organize. So getting your debts or credit, restructure or organize. What's the most common thing that most people start out with, Chad?
Yeah, the first step is creating a realistic budget. And when I talk about a realistic budget, I mean going through your bank statements, like going through what you're actually spending money on. Because my first step with clients when they come in is I go through it with them. And then it always inevitably, I'm like, oh, so you're cool. You have an extra $1,200 per month. And they're like, no, I don't. What are you talking about? I said, well, with the budget you just put down, you have an extra $1,200 per month. And it's all those little things that you forget. It's the subscriptions. It's the, going to this restaurant. It's in South Florida where we are, it's just expensive down here. So it's expensive to just like breathe and live. So things just creep into your budget. So you really have to go through month by month and take an average for your last 6 months and see what you're spending money on. And that's the first step that I do with my clients is I go through that budget, and that tells us what we're going to do. Are we going to file bankruptcy? Are we going to negotiate with our creditors? Are we just going to be able to cut expenses and then pay our debt down through a snowball method or an avalanche method, which are different ways to pay down your debt? So the first step is get the facts down. And then from there, once you understand what's going on, then make the right decision for your situation.
Yeah.
If a Dolphins beat writer is struggling with his building HOA, what should Chris, said reporter do? Too good.
Hey, Chad,
too good.
You know what?
Just sell the condo, bro. Just sell the condo. I'm sure he went against my advice. He's on the board right now.
He's got to be on the board. He's definitely got to be on the board. All right. So here's single greatest. There was one other one that I saw. Okay, why can't I sue VA hospital for bad service after cutting off my index finger by accident? Holy shnikes. I should have eaten a crayon. I have free medical already. The good thing is my index finger is always number one. So I don't know how serious that question.
Well, you can sue the VA hospital, but there's something called sovereign immunity, and there's different immunities. So you're limited on what you recover when you sue the government. So that's not my specialty, but hopefully that is a joke.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. All right. And so let's see. Speaking of what legal question, Bill from Boynton, in a state with open carry, does this mean I won't get harassed anymore for drinking a 6-pack while walking on the sidewalk?
That's the wrong carry, Bill. That's the wrong carry.
Hey, I can tell you, open carry is alive and well in Dublin, Ireland, man. There were so many people that were drinking everywhere. It was insane.
Too good. Good.
You know what, Chad? Hey, Chad, they worry about the wrong things sometimes, man. You know what I mean? Hey, if guys open carry and open carry and, they want to be out in the streets, you know what? Go get them if they're acting stupid.
100%.
Otherwise, they're probably the most peaceful people in the world.
They're happy.
They're happy.
And that's all we can ask for.
That's it.
And we're happy because the Dolphins won. Look at this.
We're happy because the Dolphins won. We're happy because of all the people that showed up today
Absolutely.
to hang out with us in the live. It was a great crowd. It was a rowdy crowd, which are the best crowds to have in these environments. I'm happy that I think I'm hoping that Alan is scrolling through his phone right now and looking for some familiar
I'm blocking
names.
people, Big Seth.
Unblocking. Joe Robbie, let me know if you get unblocked.
Yeah,
from
you
Alain
back in.
Poupart. We want to see if that happens.
It's a kumbaya situation, Big Seth. We bring everybody back together. You know what I mean?
Thing.
Me, Alan, everybody else that he's blocked, everybody that didn't like him, man. Hopefully it opens up the world to everybody.
It is October 1st. Football unites.
Yes.
A term created by the great Jason Jenkins. May he rest in peace. His birthday is this month.
We'll definitely talk about that more this month because our service, our community service is going to be out and about, man. And all you guys, we're going to let you know how you can get out and about in the community to make sure that you do what Jason Jenkins. It's the whole month now, Big Seth. There was a couple days. It usually was circled around his birthday, which is later this month.
Now.
But the whole month is about everybody getting out there and doing something in the community to better the community that they live in. That's amazing. Jason Jenkins.
Yeah, well, the boss man wouldn't settle for one day. Not about himself, but just in general.
He would settle for one day. He would settle for no days because that's how humble he was.
But I'm saying,
exactly
if we're going to have community service, why do it one day? You can do it a whole month. So amazing stuff. Hey, we love you too, T, and everybody else who showed up. Great stuff. This has been a lot of fun. Juice, get us out of here.
Yes, sir. Thanks, everybody.